Jerusalem, news of the rapprochement between longtime regional rivals Saudi Arabia and Iran sent shockwaves through the Middle East and dealt a symbolic blow to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has made the threat posed by Tehran a public diplomacy priority and personal crusade. The breakthrough, a culmination of more than a year of negotiations in Baghdad and more recent talks in China, also became ensnared in Israel's internal politics, reflecting the country's divisions at a moment of national turmoil. The agreement, which gives Iran and Saudi Arabia 2 months to reopen their respective embassies and re-establish ties after 7 years of rupture, more broadly represents one of the most striking shifts in Middle Eastern diplomacy over recent years. In countries like Yemen and Syria, long caught between the Sunni kingdom and the Shiite powerhouse, the announcement stirred cautious optimism. In Israel, it caused disappointment, along with finger-pointing. One of Netanyahu's greatest foreign policy triumphs remains Israel's U.S.-brokered normalization deals in 2020 with 4 Arab states, including Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates. They were part of a wider push to isolate and oppose Iran in the region. He has portrayed himself as the only politician capable of protecting Israel from Tehran's rapidly accelerating nuclear program and regional proxies, like Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Israel and Iran have also waged a regional shadow war that has led to suspected Iranian drone strikes on Israeli-linked ships ferrying goods in the Persian Gulf, among other attacks. A normalization deal with Saudi Arabia, the most powerful and wealthy Arab state, would fulfill Netanyahu's prized goal, reshaping the region and boosting Israel's standing in historic ways. Even as backdoor relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia have grown, the kingdom has said it won't officially recognize Israel before a resolution to the decades-long Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Since returning to office late last year, Netanyahu and his allies have hinted that a deal with the kingdom could be approaching. In a speech to American Jewish leaders last month, Netanyahu described a peace agreement as a goal that we are working on in parallel with the goal of stopping Iran. But experts say the Saudi-Iran deal that announced Friday has thrown cold water on those ambitions. Saudi Arabia's decision to engage with its regional rival has left Israel largely alone as it leads the charge for diplomatic isolation of Iran and threats of a unilateral military strike against Iran's nuclear facilities. The UAE also resumed formal relations with Iran last year. It's a blow to Israel's notion and efforts in recent years to try to form an anti-Iran bloc in the region, said Yoel Bizansky, an expert on the Persian Gulf at the Institute for National Security Studies, an Israeli think tank. If you see the Middle East as a zero-sum game, which Israel and Iran do, a diplomatic win for Iran is very bad news for Israel. Even Danny Danon, a Netanyahu ally and former Israeli ambassador to the UN who recently predicted a peace agreement with Saudi Arabia in 2023, seemed disconcerted. "This is not supporting our efforts," he said, when asked about whether the rapprochement hurt chances for the kingdom's recognition of Israel. In Yemen, where the rivalry between Saudi Arabia and Iran has played out with the most destructive consequences, both warring parties were guarded but hopeful. A Saudi-led military coalition intervened in Yemen's conflict in 2015, months after the Iran-backed Houthi militias seized the capital of Sana'a in 2014, forcing the internationally recognized government into exile in Saudi Arabia. The Houthi rebels welcomed the agreement as a modest but positive step. The region needs the return of normal relations between its countries, through which the Islamic society can regain security lost from foreign interventions, said Houthi spokesman and chief negotiator Mohammed Abdul Salam. The Saudi-backed Yemeni government expressed some optimism and caveats. The Yemeni government's position depends on actions and practices, not words and claims, it said, adding it would proceed cautiously until observing a true change in Iranian behavior.